Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to North East Water's Community Webinar Series. In today's webinar, we will explore how we keep our customer data safe. My name is Lisa Ryan, and I'm the General Manager for Digital and Business Transformation at North East Water, and I'm delighted to have you with us today. Firstly, North East Water acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands and waters on which we operate and are meeting today. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Before we get started, I'd just like to go over some housekeeping items so that we have a smooth session today. So please note that all the audience members will have their cameras and microphones switched off for this webinar. The webinar is being recorded and will be available via our website after this session, and we'll send you a link to access the recording so that you can share it with others. We encourage you to ask questions, and you can submit your questions at any time using the Q&A function. We'll address as many questions as possible during the Q&A segment and following the presentation. So before we dive into our main topic today, I'd just like to give you a brief overview of North East Water and what we do. Essentially, we plan for and provide critical water and sewage services to 39 towns across a 20,000 square kilometre region. We serve over 120,000 people, ensuring they have access to high quality, clean and safe water. We operate 21 water treatment plants and 22 wastewater treatment plants, and our extensive pipe network includes 1,300 kilometres of sewer mains and 1,800 kilometres of water mains. North East Water's assets are valued at $1.6 billion, and we are committed to investing in and maintaining our infrastructure to meet current and future needs. We have one of the lowest water bills in Victoria and across the nation, with an average residential bill in 24-25 of $1,040 per year. We are committed to using 100% renewable energy from 2025 and a net zero emissions by 2035. We survey 2,000 customers a year, and from this, we know that customer satisfaction with our services is at 94%. And finally, we are proud to employ 208 local employees who provide exceptional service and support to our community. After a year of extensive engagement with customers and key stakeholders, North East Water is proud to unveil our new corporate strategy. Strategy 2040 sets out our vision for the future, one in which we actively contribute to a healthy environment, a thriving community, and a prosperous region. This strategy outlines our purpose, delivering safe, sustainable water and wastewater solutions that meet the needs of our communities. Strategy 2040 directly addresses the pressing challenges of climate change, population growth, rapid technological change, and evolving customer and community expectations. Our approach focuses on 4 key areas: ensuring a secure water future, transforming waste into valuable resources, valuing First Nations people, our customers and employees, and providing services that are fair, accessible and affordable. We envision a future where technology and data drive service innovation, and through collaboration and inclusive engagement, we deliver lasting positive outcomes. By staying ahead of trends and leveraging our infrastructure, we support the ongoing prosperity of our region. Thank you again for being here today. The North East Water Strategy 2040 highlights 3 essential pillars for enabling success: people, partnerships, and innovation. Today, we're delving into our innovation pillar, and we embrace continuous improvement, but we understand the need to balance this with a risk-based approach to change, including cyber and data security. Under our innovation pillar and together with our digital strategies, we are striving to be a data-driven organisation where the data held across all of North East Water helps us in our decisions, our improvements, and in providing safe and reliable services. Our customer data is key to this, and respecting our customers and community data by keeping it safe and protected is at the centre of all that we do. I would now like to hand over and introduce to my fellow presenters, Nick Mooney, Manager of Innovation and Information Security, and Angus Beath, Architect. Over to you, Nick.
Thanks, Lisa. At North East Water, the data that we have is governed by a number of government bodies, and I'll go through and explain what they are. So firstly, we have the Essential Services Commission, and that's a Victorian entity that regulates all of the essential services in the state of Victoria, including all of the water and electricity utilities. Then we have DECA, which is the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action in the Victorian Government. And this department is responsible for a wide range of functions related to energy policy, environmental protection and climate action. And this does include things like cyber security strategy and risk management. And then we have OVIC, and OVIC stands for the Office of the Victorian Information Commissioner. And this is an independent regulator in Victoria responsible for overseeing the information privacy, data protection and freedom of information requests in the public sector. When we talk about privacy at North East Water, we adhere to the Victorian Information Privacy Principles, and these are 10 principles which cover things such as the collection, use, and the quality of the data that we have. And these principles aim to ensure that person's information is managed responsibly and transparently. So we have a lot of data at North East Water to consider. So the data can be broken into a number of different areas. So we've got the customer data, billing data, and data relating to, say, graphical information. And there's many other types of data. So customer data is just one type of data. When we look at the data that we've got, we can break it into a number of key categories. So we've got public data, and that could be data that appears on our website or social media. We've got confidential data which has a lot of restricted access, and it's for internal use only. And then we've got personally identifying information, so PII, and this is specific customer data that could identify a person or reasonably identify them. And the way that we use the PII data, which is essentially our customer data, is governed by the OVIC data policy and the 10 PII rules, and that covers the collection and destruction of this data. So today we're going to talk specifically around how we keep customer data safe. So what do we mean by customer data? So we have to consider there's a few principles at play here. So the purpose of the data is the reason why we're collecting it. And so normally that's so that we can provide you services, including, say, contacting you and invoicing you for your usage. The consent refers to the terms under which you agree that data is supplied to us. And this might be inferred through a residential tenancy agreement, or when buying and selling a house, when using a solicitor or a conveyancer. Then we have to consider what's reasonable and necessary when it comes to data. So this means that we need data from you and the actions that we will take with it, and that those actions are proportionate to the purpose that we're collecting it for, and that is fair and proper. The personal data is data about an individual who can be identified or whose identity could be reasonably ascertained from that data. So that kind of data includes things like your name, your date of birth, your contact details, your concessions and addresses, for example. And then we go and look at sensitive data. So sensitive data, typically includes things like racial and ethnic origin, political opinions, religious beliefs, and so on. We don't ask for this data, and this data doesn't affect the way that we would supply services to you. But if you provide this data to us, such as if you're at risk or if you're differently abled, then that might help us provide services to you better and show empathy towards you. And so that could be a situation where you feel that you're at risk, or maybe you have trouble managing your affairs or reading your bill and so on. So you don't have to provide it, but if you do, we will take that information very seriously, and we'll be able to provide you better support as a result. So why is data important? So the personal data that you provide us, we use it to to verify who you are. We use it to bill you. We use it to support customers with special needs, and we use it to help identify and fix issues with accounts. Our customers' data is important because simply our customers themselves are important. And your data is essentially a story about you. We have to consider that there's significant penalties for North East Water for misusing or losing customer data. And that applies to all Australian entities, whether they're public or private. And we are finding that the law and the community expectations in this space is only getting stricter. If we misuse customer data, whether intentionally or through poor practices, or we allow it to happen, then the penalties might include fines, court action, reputational damage, intervention orders from regulators. These actions are all serious, and we take the prospect of them very seriously. We also have to consider that we have a wide spread of people living in our catchment area, as we have almost 20,000 square kilometres of coverage and 120,000 residents across 39 towns. We will have almost every possible demographic represented in our database, and that could include vulnerable customers, elderly customers, customers who identify as First Nations, customers under financial stress, and so on. And also, as the regulated provider for water and wastewater services in our region, we can't actively refuse or choose our customers in any way. So anyone that moves into our service region and into a home that requires a connection to either drinking water or wastewater, as well as businesses and commercial properties, those persons become a customer, and we'll require their information in order to provide them services. Our full privacy statement and customer charter can be found on our website, and you'll find on that website that there is also a form for reporting any suspected breaches of data. So what else do we do with data? Put simply, we use the data about our customers and their use of our services to provide these services, as well as develop ways to improve them. As the saying goes, you can't manage what you can't measure. Our Strategy 2040 acknowledges that technology advancement is one of key 6 drivers for North East Water as it looks to the future. And we understand that technology is rapidly advancing, and this covers all aspects and types of technology, including what technology we make available to our staff at North East Water and what technology our customers expect to be able to use when they interact with us. The use of data is impacting many aspects of customer lives because data is being continuously created in all aspects of our lives, as well as in this organisation. But data is valuable, and there are external threats to our business and all businesses by parties that might want to obtain or misuse this data. As such, we acknowledge that protecting data and its privacy must remain a priority, and so it is. It's a similar mantra in other industries, such as safety over schedule. We will put the safety of your data over the schedule of business operations. I'd now like to hand over to Angus, our cybersecurity architect.
Thanks, Nick. We take the safety of our customers' data seriously, and so do the various governing bodies in both Victoria and the Commonwealth. Of note is the Australian Cybersecurity Centre. They're a key component of the Australian Signals Directorate, and ASD are really the peak body for cybersecurity across the Commonwealth. It plays a crucial role in enhancing Australia's cybersecurity by providing advice, information and assistance to protect against cyber threats, both foreign and domestic. Locally, though, in the state of Victoria, the Department of Premier and Cabinet is the central agency in the Vic government that works across the policy areas, including emergency management and digital data initiatives. Underneath DPC is the Digital Security Group, and they're responsible for the management of implementing cybersecurity measures across the Victorian public sector, including the Cybersecurity Incident Response Service. DGS are also responsible for sending out threat intelligence that we use to make sure that we're staying ahead of the game from a cyber perspective. These groups bring out frameworks that we use to build our cybersecurity posture against, and primary of which in Victoria is the Victorian Protective Data Security Standards and the framework that wraps around that. These standards are part of the Victorian Government's framework for ensuring the security of public sector information, and they apply to all Victorian public sector organisations. It includes items such as how we report privacy or security breaches to OVIC that Nick mentioned before, but also around good governance from a cybersecurity perspective. We also use the Essential 8, which is a set of cybersecurity strategies developed by the ACSC to help organisations protect their systems against cyber threats. These strategies are designed to be practical and effective in improving security posture. They're used both in the public and private sector. Key acts of law also apply against us, and you can see in the Venn diagram at the middle the PDP Act. That's the Victorian Privacy and Data Protection Act 2014. It's a key piece of legislation relating to both privacy and cyber security for North East Water in the data security space. Moving on, how we protect your data from a cyber security perspective. Well, security is not a product, it's a process. And to that end, we have layered security throughout the business. This includes extended detect and response software, email scanning, firewalls, and a variety of other tools that we use to manage external access. We have dedicated staff that work only in the cybersecurity area, ably supported by our IT team, and we look to have continual training and rolled out across the organisation, including testing for phishing attacks and response to incidents. We have specific policies and training around information security and information management, and we work with specialist government agencies like DGS and external parties on current and emerging threats. North East Water has also invested heavily in information security through tools, education and training for our staff. Moving on, safety by design has become a key element for North East Water. There's been a greater commitment than ever by the Privacy Commission and our regulator, the Essential Services Commission, in developing the safety by design guidelines. And this is particular for organisations that are dealing with customer data. Over 2025, we'll have a continued focus on protecting this data with a specific focus on our vulnerable customers who are at greater risk of harm in the event of improper data loss or use. We've commenced a project to that end that will engage all levels and business units of the organisation to ensure consistent practices in the handling of customer data. We'll review all our systems and all our processes in the organisation to ensure that we are aware of where this data is held and how we will protect it. We focus on continuous improvement of our processes and people to ensure we're considering the customers in all that we're doing, checking and mitigating any risk to them. And now onto the Q&A.
Thank you, Angus, and thank you, Nick, for your summary. Now, I've had a couple of questions come through, and what I'll do is just hand off as we go through these. Look, the first question was just around what customers can do to understand what data has been collected or held by North East Water. So thanks, James. I'm going to ask Nick to pick up that question if I could.
Yes, certainly, Lisa. So, look, firstly, we don't really keep a lot of data about our customers. We keep what's needed just to provide them the services that they get from us. So if they'd like to know more about this data, the first thing they can do is talk to us. So they can contact our contact centre or write to us. We have a number of ways to get in contact, which are listed on the website. If they're not satisfied with the information that we provide them, then they can submit an FOI request, and that'd be appropriate in more complex situations and might allow them to get a bit more data. And then if they were unsatisfied with the results of the FOI request, noting that the FOI requests are covered by certain policies, and we may have to remove data relating to other people from an FOI request. So if they're unsatisfied with that, then they can take it up with the Office of the Victorian Information Commissioner on the next steps.
Thanks, Nick. Great answer. And the next question we have is from Holly. So is North East Water under more threat than, say, other businesses in our community? Angus, would you like to answer that one?
Thanks, Lisa. North East Water does see a higher threat profile than, say, a local shop or small business in the area, just because of our size and profile within the community. That doesn't mean, though, that we're less resourced or that there's something more to worry about. In fact, because we are aware of that, that we are a more juicy target, perhaps, we take greater steps than, say, other businesses in the community would. And because we're part of state government, we're also supported much more ably by external bodies to ensure our safety going forward.
Great. Thank you, Angus. So the next question was from Karen. It's asking, how does North East Water manage the rapidly changing information security landscape? Which is probably a challenge we face every day, in that the frameworks that Angus mentioned change. The data that we need as part of our systems can change. So we actually just try to keep on top of that by, monitoring all of the information that's coming through from the different regulatory bodies, monitoring changes to frameworks, making sure that we're actually up to date with all of our risk mitigation and all of the controls that we have in place. But it is definitely a day-to-day activity, and I guess cybersecurity doesn't sleep is definitely true. So we do have active controls and active people like Angus that are actually looking at those changes in the landscape. The final question is from David, and I'll give this one to you, Nick. So what kind of organisations does North East Water collaborate with on our information security?
Oh, thanks, Lisa. So, look, certainly, there's two sides to this. So we've got the organisations and the relations that we keep in respect to data governance and privacy, and then we've got the relationships we keep in terms of cybersecurity. So I can go through what some of those are. So we've got the ASG, so the Australian Signals Directorate, and within them is the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, the ACSC. We've also got OVIC, the Office of the Victorian Information Commissioner. We work with the ESC, the Essential Services Commission in Victoria. And then one of our key liaisons is with the Department of Government Services in Victoria. So there's numerous innovation groups and working groups within there. And then, of course, we've got an employee present today, Angus, who's actually a committee member with the Cybersecurity Steering Committee for Victorian Water Authority. So across the board, we work with a lot of government agencies as well as some private sector ones as well.
Thanks, Nick. I hope that's answered everyone's questions. I'm not sure if we have any other questions, Luke, that may have come through the Q&A section.
Nope, Lisa, you're all good to go.
Lovely. Thank you for that. Well, based on that, that's actually concluding our webinar for today. But before I wrap up, I just want to confirm with everyone that, we're actively working on our cybersecurity and we respect our customer data. And your feedback is important to us, so it'll also help us improve these webinars in the future and any topics that you may want to see. So there's a QR code on the screen if you'd like to complete a short survey, and we'll also send an email to you shortly, which will include a link to the survey and a recording of today's session. If you have any other further questions or need more information about anything you've learned today, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd like to thank my presenters, Nick and Angus. Thank you so much, and everyone for their questions today. And thank you for attending the webinar. Have a great afternoon.